Welcome into the DNVR Avalanche Podcast, presented by DraftKings Sportsbook, the number one rated sportsbook app out there. I'm your host, Rudolph, joined as always by AJ Haefele. We will get into the fan vote about the Avs and their front office rankings in just a little bit, but first, quite a bit of news to round up, I guess, Avs related in some ways. We'll start off with today's, I don't know if I would call it an announcement, but the Avs showed off their official 25th anniversary patch, or at least what's expected to be their 25th anniversary patch. And it's awful in every imaginable way. I don't like this. To me, looks like, all right, if you were taking like a graphic design class and you procrastinated something and it was due in the morning and you fell asleep and then you woke up with 20 minutes until class and you like threw this together, just have something to turn in. This is what I imagine you would come up with.
Yeah, the leftover of the leftovers from the Avs logo make it look kind of lazy.
Yep.
This is the exact opposite of the 10th anniversary logo, the X, which
was amazing.
Awesome.
Yeah.
If this is actually the patch, I'm so disappointed.
Yeah, it's not. Maybe it's not. Like, maybe this is just their like announcement graphic or something, which it's still bad. But
this isn't great. So, but after a day in which everybody eviscerated our jersey takes, maybe we shouldn't talk about design anymore.
True. You all were not happy with our jersey takes in the YouTube comments.
I read through some of the comments and I loved the like, you guys didn't understand what was going on. And I don't know how many times we said.
Yeah, I felt like, no, we understand. It's just still a bad jersey.
Right. Like, we get it, but it's bad.
And then there were the split takes. A lot of people saying the Minnesota jersey was good, which I just don't understand. People saying the Ducks jersey is good, fine, whatever. But
I mean, the Ducks, it was funny when you put out the chart on Twitter because we had to create a new category for it because I wanted to give it an S and you guys wanted to put it at the bottom.
Yep.
And so we created its own category and people were like, why are you guys hating on it? And I was like, look, I liked it.
I even qualified it in the tweet of the audio podcast. I was like, look, we put it in its own category because we didn't know how to fit it in.
Yeah.
But you win some, you lose some, I guess. Losing the graphic design battle.
You could really tell who didn't listen to the show.
Yeah, right.
Yesterday, because people were commenting on things like, "Oh, you guys just skipped Chicago," and it was like, "Did we?
We definitely did not."
Yeah, we got to that one pretty early. We
just
made a separate decision.
10 minutes into the show, you'd have found that one out. But anyway, move on to some actual on ice Avs news. Let's start with Adam Werner, who the Avs had loaned over to Sweden. He was playing with Vida Hasten. I'm sure I said that wrong. In the Swedish second tier league, the Allsvenskan. He played a handful of games. Honestly, his numbers weren't even very good. But as of this week, or the end of last week, I suppose, the Avs officially ended his loan agreement. He's now sitting at home resting. He did a big interview on it. I forget who has it, but go check that out. I'm sure if you just Google Adam Werner interview, you can find it, where he basically talked about his main goals in Sweden were just to play a handful of games. He wasn't expected to be the starter down there or anything, and to mostly work on his strength and conditioning. So we'll see. It's interesting that they've ended the loan agreement just because it's still not clear when NHL training camps will start. Obviously, the expectation, or they hope, is like mid-December, but we'll see.
Yeah, I think this it lines up. The timeline of it is pretty good if we're still planning on a mid-December training camp in Denver.
Yeah.
Because they can, he gets to chill for a couple of weeks and then he's got to start figuring out how to get into the United States and get back to Denver and get there early and get acclimated and blah 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 blah. Because there's, the COVID restrictions are coming.
Yep.
I don't know what they're going to look like. I don't know what they're going to look like for air travel, but they're going to get more restrictive in a lot of ways, in a lot of places, and I'm curious how that has an impact on getting ready for the next season.
Yeah, I mean, we saw with the NHL playoffs, like, a lot of the time athletes can get exceptions to a lot of these things.
Yeah.
But it doesn't make the logistics of it any easier. They still have to figure out so many things.
Yeah. I mean, I'm keeping an eye on it because I don't know.
Yeah. Are you going to be able to come back to the States? Who knows?
Yeah. Because if they tell me that I can't come back, I guess I'm just here for a while.
Well, there are worse things than that, I imagine.
Yeah. I'd be okay with that.
But yeah, I mean, we'll see. A lot of the Denver area just moved to red level. Then there's a purple level now. Whatever. I'm not going to get into that.
Old red is now purple.
Yeah.
And now the new one is like the new red is like even redder.
Yeah, it's weird, but anyway,
okay, guys.
Things are becoming more strict for sure. So it's a tough balancing act for an NHL team, right? Because they're like, they want to get their players back over, but you also don't want to bring someone like Werner over now, and then all of a sudden training camps don't start till late January.
Yeah.
Because then he's just sitting in North America for 2 months doing nothing.
Well, and he has to come in on a work visa, and if he's coming in on a work visa and he's not working,
problems.
Yeah, you're going to have an issue.
So definitely a tough balancing act. I think the hope is the NHL should announce something this week or next.
Yeah, they said that they were really hoping to do it by Thursday, but it could be Monday.
So,
and it's like, okay.
and the last time we did this song and dance about the playoffs, it ended up being weeks on weeks on weeks of just waiting around. So, we'll have to see how exactly that pans out with all of these guys. And because I'm like, with the Avs alone, it's going to affect Werner. It's going to affect Kaut. It's going to affect Rantanen. Is Landy back in Sweden right now? I don't know.
I don't know where he is. I don't know what he's up to.
So certainly, Burakovsky might be back in Europe too. I'm not sure, but the Avs have a handful of guys that will have to go through this process of getting back into the States.
Yeah.
And that's the Avs are one of the playoff teams. For the 8 teams that did not make the playoffs, their camp is supposed to start like a week or two earlier than everyone else's based on everything that they've said. So
we're talking 2 weeks from now.
Yeah. Like that's ASAP.
Yeah. Those guys would have to start making real plans to get over here.
So it's going to be very, very tight for some of those European guys, but
we gotta follow these guys more closely on their social media so that we can know every move of their off season.
Right. I'm just not an Instagram user, unfortunately. That's where all the deets come from.
I hop on. I watch people's stories at night when I'm going to bed, and I just flip through them real quick, and I'm like, cool
pictures. Next.
Yes, and then that's the extent of it.
That is the way it goes. One of the Avs players generating quite a bit of hype in social media spheres is Alex Bocage.
Well, one of the only ones actually getting to play actual hockey.
Yep. Funny how that works, huh?
Yeah, right.
Bocage having a 4-goal game where he scored 4 goals in about 10 minutes of ice time, 10 minutes of game time to create a comeback by himself to win a game 5-4 in overtime for Ron Noranda in the QMJHL. It's weird to me because he did the thing that he does best and people who follow the prospects heavily pretty much know he has an NHL caliber shot.
Yeah.
And that's just what he did. He rolled up and fired 4 goals into the net, basically. But still.
Yeah, I mean, so he had essentially back-to-back 40-goal seasons the last 2 years in the queue. He's got 13 goals in 10 games, even before the 4-goal game.
He's off to obviously game player. Yeah,
a very good start. But the reason why I would say that the prospect people haven't gone all bananas over this yet, it's the same.
Yep.
This is kind of just what Bocage does. We've known essentially since he was drafted that his shot was too good for that league.
Yep.
That if there was that aspect of his game has been pro ready for 2 years. You know, I think his skating has gotten better. It's still not good.
Yep.
It's still going to be a big question mark. How does this translate to the pros? How does his shot translate to the pros when he doesn't have all the time and space in the world to do whatever he wants with it? You know, what does it look like when defenses are a lot tighter on him? Why a lot of us, the prospect people, have not gotten overly excited about this is because this is just more of the same from him.
Right.
This is what we've expected. This is what we've seen for a couple of years. This is who the kid is. He's a great shooter, and we've always acknowledged that. It's why we're high on him. It's why we have him on prospect lists and talk about him as a potential NHL player. He doesn't have his ELC yet, but he's getting one. I don't think that's been in any doubt whatsoever.
Yeah, 100%.
I know that there's that small part of the fan base that gets really frustrated with how the Avs give out their ELCs. But
yeah,
they get them signed, so it's not really a big deal.
Unless you're an overager that they drafted at 19, you get an ELC basically.
Well, and like when you get the ELC, like how many decisions on ELCs have they been really wrong about?
Right.
It was like Patrick Waugh versus Will Butcher back in the day.
Yep.
Is like the last like big ELC where you could say the Avs really screwed that one up.
They miss a lot more of the guys they sign than the ones they don't. Put it that way.
Right. Like they give ELCs to guys like Travis Barron, you know, who deserved one.
Yep, sure.
You know, he had his last OHL season. He absolutely deserved one. See what he has. And then he gets into pro hockey and then nothing really happens. And you're like, okay, well, now you know.
Yeah.
That's why you give him the ELC, is you find out.
If it's not there, it's not there. Yeah.
Right. With Bocage, you're hoping, you know, Nick Henry had a nice shot too and skating question marks.
Yep.
So, you know, and they were, in terms of draft position, they were only picked about 20 picks apart. So where, you know, I would say for all of the hype that people have started to give Bocage because he had the great weekend, like this is still like it's good to be excited. I'm not telling people not to be. He's worthy of the hype. He's worthy of the excitement, but
you have to be realistic
until he gets into the AHL. Yeah, until he gets into the AHL and we start to see how his game is going to translate to a tougher league where it's just better defensively than the Q is. We're not going to really know, you know, how bright the star can shine. Realistically,
a weekend like this one for Bocage is why you should be excited about maybe putting him in your top 10 prospects. Not talking about him as like a top 5 guy.
In Colorado system, yeah. I think if you look at Colorado system 5 years ago, Bocage is absolutely
be like second or third or something.
Yeah, you'd be talking about him as like, oh, this guy could be a major steal. This guy's going to be a stud. Like, you know, but the system is just in a place right now where it's just flush with talent.
Yep.
And lots of reasons to be excited about Bocage. Certainly not telling people not to be, but he's this is his D+2. He should be doing this.
Yep. This is
like if he doesn't have a 50 goal season, I'll be a little disappointed, barring injury, of course.
Yeah, naturally. We do need to take our first period break there and acknowledge Breckenridge Brewery, the official beer of DNVR. Oh, I have a hot peek here, but you're not going to be able to see it. You can see the name at least, kind of, through my green screen.
Can?
Yeah, the green can on you. 8 different types on tap down at the DNVR bar, or you can use the Breck Beer Locator online to find it near you. And for this week as well, we're also running that contest here at DNVR. I know at least a couple of people have signed up with the Avs code for an annual subscription to us, but we need more. We need to try and get on top for this one. AJ, you've been here longer than me. I don't think the Avs have ever won one of these competitions at DNVR, have they?
There was one time we were tied at the very, very end with the Broncos, and they bribed some Broncos dude to push them over the top to win it. So that was as close as we've ever gotten, but which is disappointing because the Avs fan base, hockey fans pride themselves on being the most passionate fans. The problem is that it's just not, the Avs fan base just is not the same size as the Broncos. The Broncos is a juggernaut.
Massive, yep.
It's a juggernaut, man. It's just hard to compete with that, and I'd love to see Avs fans step up that game a little bit and come harder at the Broncos than we're seeing.
So we need your help to try and take down the Goliath here. Sign up for an annual subscription at DNVR and use code AVS to help us out. And when you do that, you'll get a free shirt, mask, and sticker pack. So that's worth it alone right there to sign up for the annual subscription, not to mention all of our awesome coverage as well. But
I'm super sick of hearing it from the Broncos guys over the years.
Yeah, so that's all I'm saying is help us out, help us take down the Broncos a little bit as we jump into the second period of this DNVR Avalanche podcast. Now, I think you bring up a good point with Bocage in that these guys in their D+2, Bocage, Mutala, not exactly a D+2, but someone like a Ranta to a certain extent, although he does need to have a good year.
Yeah.
You're in this situation where they've probably already earned an ELC, but they're not ready or they can't, in the case of CHL players at age 19, jump into the AHL yet.
Definitely.
And it's hard to gauge those players and where they're at because you'll see them put up these gaudy numbers in a league that they're just better than. Yeah.
It's interesting because you mentioned a guy like Ranta.
Yep.
One of the upsides of drafting college players is you get 4 years to see what these guys look like.
Yep.
Because if you had to give Ranta an ELC, if you had to make the decision after the sophomore year, you give him an ELC or he goes to free agency. If they'd done that, he would have gotten an ELC.
Yeah.
Absolutely. He absolutely improved enough from year 1 to year 2 to be worthy of the ELC. But because he's in college, they get to see that third year. And it's not only that they get to see it. Like I can tell you right now, Sampo Ranta is getting an ELC. Again, barring a major collapse, Colorado absolutely has him in their plans. I know this. Like he's on that list of guys. But they get a free year of development. They don't have to, he's still not so much better than guys in college hockey.
Yep.
That year there, that his junior year there won't benefit him. It'll benefit him a ton. He still needs to have a good year. He still needs to jump forward. Even if he has an identical year, he's still worthy of an ELC. You're just a little less excited.
Yeah.
But the thing with the college guys is that you have the time. We're seeing Nick Lieberman is off to a nice start for Notre Dame.
Yep.
Where you're starting to have the conversation where you're like, okay, he's a junior and he's a little bit older of a junior because he in his draft
year in the BCHL. Yep.
Yeah, he went to the BCHL from Minnesota high school, and so you're saying, maybe after this that was a guy that we said he's going to go 4 years. Well, given Colorado's dearth of quality defensive prospects, maybe if Nick Lieberman continues to have a good year, maybe he pushes himself into that conversation where you say, we're considering this, we'll give this guy an ELC after this year. Maybe maybe after his senior year, if he doesn't want to go to free agency.
Yeah,
but that's kind of the advantage of the college guys, is that you can sign them whenever and do whatever you want, whatever timeline. With Newhook, we've said, hey, Newhook would probably be signed in a lot of other organizations. They would have signed him after 1 year, and they'd be getting him. They'd be putting him into competition for the NHL team. Colorado just doesn't need him, to be honest. So they can leave him in college for a second season to go develop for another year. Even if it's not an incredibly impactful year, if he just repeats his freshman year, you're thrilled.
Yeah. Newhook in particular also gets the benefit of getting to go to World Juniors this year. So
kind of a benefit. Because normally World Juniors is great because you're gone for a month.
Yeah.
You leave, you go to camp, you go to WJCs, you go back. The whole thing takes a month. Now it's like he's going to play one college game.
Yeah.
He's going to leave, and he'll be back sometime in January. I will be back in Denver before that guy gets back to BC.
It is true, but we've talked about it before. It's the one stage where you get to play against the best of your peers. And two, more directly related to the Avs, is the Avs have pretty aggressively pushed for prospects with the opportunity to go for them.
Oh yeah.
So
it's worth it. It's a worthy exercise. It's just this year for Newhook, it's for basically the only time ever it's a double-edged sword where he's missing out on a month worth of college games to go and practice with the Canadian team
in a season where there might only be like 2 or 3 months of college games total. So
right. If the Canadian team wasn't so loaded, and I would say it may honestly not have been worth it, but because he's going to be practicing with the best of the best against them every single day, iron sharpens iron. I think it's a great environment for him to be in.
I fully agree, which kind of leads all of this talk about prospects and development leads us into our next topic here, where was it Friday or over the weekend? Dom, I'm going with Lecision. It's probably wrong, but over there for the Athletic created the public voting for the most confidence in, I guess, NHL front offices, and the Avs came in first place with a pretty high rank across the board.
Yeah, I like the split between public opinion and fan base.
Yep.
Because teams fans know their team better on an intimate level.
Yeah.
But sometimes they can get a little lost in some of the minutia, some of the details, and they can overrate or underrate certain aspects of an organization.
Yep.
That the public and the fan base line up almost entirely across this board is a testament to what an awesome job that the front office has done over the last 5 years. And certainly the last 24 months, especially, they have crushed.
Yeah, it's been, excellent. The widest gap here between fan base and public opinion is.
Brad, what do you want us to say about the colors, man?
They're blue.
Yeah. Okay. It happened. The Avs announced that they're going with different colors on the gloves and the pants and the helmets. We knew this already. So
yeah. I don't see it as that big a deal. It's not like they changed.
I want to see it on the ice. I want to see it on the ice before I really get too hyped up about it. Some of the mock-ups of the blue ones don't look very good. Some of the mock-ups that people have done with burgundy kits look a lot better. We'll see.
It's just, I've never looked at a hockey player playing hockey and gone, oh, look at his pants.
Yeah,
it's just something that fades into the background.
We're the worst podcast for this.
Yeah. Definitely not the color guys.
Yeah.
When it comes to the accessories.
It's just not, we're here to talk X's and O's, and we're going to talk about draft and develop. We're not here to get too deep into the jersey stuff. It's just call it our blind spot, I guess.
Yeah. as the entire internet let us know after yesterday's show.
Yeah, a bunch of people's opinions apparently can be very, very wrong.
Anyway, so I mean, I guess we can kind of just move through this list. I don't know how the Avs got a 4.9 from their fan base and somehow aren't number one in roster building. First of all,
yeah,
I don't know who got the 5.0, but as AJ, you were starting to get into over the last 24 months, the Avs have not missed. Not a single move they've made has struggled. At least at the NHL level.
Basically, the big moves, the big moves, the moves that you can say have not gone well for them. The Brassard at the trade deadline deal, didn't work out, and Marco Dano being claimed on waivers, did not work out. Those are the last things that they've done that really have not at the NHL level that have not gone well.
Yeah, I mean, Burakovsky, the Kadri move, signing Donskoy.
Signing Donskoy,
Belmar, Nichushkin.
Yeah, Nichushkin.
This offseason, everywhere. Well, first of all, Nemesnikov at the deadline worked quite well in the limited action that he saw. This offseason, getting both Saad and Taves.
Yeah, without touching the core. No first round pick.
Zadorov is the only roster player they moved out, which is something they'd been looking to do for a while.
Well, and then they immediately approved upon him when they got Taves.
Yeah, so exactly. So you're talking, it's not just that they've had a strong 24 months, it's that they've done a lot in that time frame.
Well, you remember before last offseason, they didn't have a second line.
Yep.
Now they have an entire second line and an envious top four on defense.
Yeah. They've filled out their roster about as good as is possible in the NHL with a salary cap. So
yeah.
You could say, oh, well, yeah, they didn't get Taylor Hall or whatever, but
definitely. It's fair. They try. I mean, it's kind of fair because they offered him $6.5 million from
right.
What I have it as is that they offered him $6.5 million. I don't know if there's been a lot of talk about whatever number they gave him out there, but I have it at 6.5 from what the digging that I've done on it.
Maybe that was never enough to get him or whatever, but
if he says no to $6.5 million, so he can go sign $8 million in Buffalo, well, there you have it. We always say, money talks, and we're gonna find out these guys' priorities. Taylor Hall didn't want it. That's fine.
Yeah, right. And they move on, and after not getting Taylor Hall, well, presumably they knew they were out when they made the Saad deal, but nothing official there. But they didn't get Hall, so they went and made themselves better on both offense and defense instead. That's a pretty darn good plan B. So I do truly believe the Avs front office gets a ton of credit. Their cap management, obviously, they're fine. We talked about that a ton this offseason where they put themselves in a position to be perfectly fine under the cap.
Mm-hmm.
They'll have questions to answer next season when it comes to re-signing Landy, maybe even this offseason still potentially, and then Makar's contract as well. But
Grubauer, Saad, both those guys are all free agents.
But they haven't put themselves in a situation where they need to send out money in mass.
Yeah. I actually did it today for something that I would like to write at some point.
Yeah.
It's going to be hard to bring Saad back. But they could definitely get Makar, Landeskog, and Grubauer if they want.
Mm-hmm.
And if they don't want Grubauer, they could probably get Saad, but then they'll have to find, you'll need a goaltender somewhere.
Yeah.
So it really just sort of depends. They can easily get Landeskog and Makar, and then they'll have enough room to make the decisions from there.
Yep. And
so they're still in a good position for the next year or so at the cap.
Yep. And they're an organization that you can put a little bit of faith in at this point to do what they need to do to build this roster correctly. On that note, we do need to take our second period break here, as we are sponsored by DraftKings, the best sports betting app out there. Week 10 of football is in the books, and now it's time to review the tape and get ready for Week 11. There's no better place to get in on all the actions than with DraftKings Sportsbook. To add to the excitement of Week 11, DraftKings Sportsbook is bringing back their can't-miss offer. If you haven't tried DraftKings Sportsbook yet, head to the App Store now and download it, because you don't want to miss this, as all new users get the chance to earn a sign-up bonus of up to $1,000 when they sign up with code DNVR. They have tons of ways to bet. You can bet live on sports. You can bet on specific player prop bets, specific event prop bets, all sorts of amazing stuff on all sorts of crazy sports as well. Even if you don't want to bet on football, that's fine. You can still earn that $1,000, because all you have to do is download the top-rated DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use promo code DNVR when you sign up to get up to that $1,000. Again, code DNVR when you sign up for a limited time only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Must be 21 or older, Colorado only. Bonus comprised of a first deposit bonus. Deposit bonus requires 25x playthrough. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem, call 1-800-522-4700. And we are also sponsored by Chevalier Mortgage, who have been in the business for more than 15 years. Both Mike and Virginia are diehard Broncos fans and have lived here in Colorado for a very long time, so they're local and are big supporters of us here at DNVR as well. Can't recommend these guys enough. You can call Virginia directly at 303-257-6578 or visit them at dnvrmortgage.com. When you go there, you can sign up to win a free DNVR shirt or hat and also get set up for a free consultation as well. Again, dnvrmortgage.com. Mike and Virginia know that your home is likely to be one of your largest assets and your mortgage your largest debt. So they believe it is vital to consider your full financial picture when purchasing a home. This includes considering your short-term and long-term planning goals, your investments, and your tax situation. Mike and Virginia will work tirelessly to find the best loan for you. Again, visit dnvrmortgage.com to check them out. Be sure to sign up to try and win that free shirt or hat when you do. Michael Chevalier, NMLS 1931006. Virginia Chevalier, NMLS 1910631. Third period of the DNVR Avalanche Podcast, presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. So as we keep moving down this list, this is probably the most interesting one. The draft and develop section is the one area where you see a pretty big difference in the public opinion versus the fan base's opinion. Now, right off the bat, us being part of Avalanche coverage, we both know they haven't developed a pick outside the first round in over a decade.
Can we skip this one for now, since this will be the one that we talk the most about?
Sure, we can come back to it.
Yeah, I just
bust through these other ones.
The other ones are quick rundowns where it's like trading. They've been nails. Like find a outside of the Brassard trade, which
we kind of wrapped that into the roster building already. Honestly, like
it's really and if that's your big miss, you're doing fine. Yep.
The free agency one, look, it's a little bit interesting that they got ranked so high when they did literally nothing in free agency this year. They signed some minor league, maybe tweener guys, but as far as everyday NHL roster players are concerned, the only thing they did was let a couple guys go to free agency.
I feel like public opinion did not rank them second in the NHL because of the AHL contract they gave to Mika Solomon.
Right, exactly. That definitely is not why. So.
Also says a lot about what public opinion thinks of free agency in general, that the Abs are second at 3.9.
Yeah. You're ranked at 3.9 in second place, and you did nothing. So is public opinion just never once with free agents? Not even once?
Yeah. Public opinion is... it's out on free agency.
Just don't do it.
Vision is such a broad and strange category.
Yeah.
But it's hard to argue with them being top of the table on this one. They've been steadily building towards their vision over the last 4 years. I know that's driven some people crazy because some people are like, you have to stop with all the fast guys. You need the big tough guys to stop them because they always run into the tough guys in the playoffs, right? I mean, like that's where the frustration has come in, but they have built to a very particular vision. They want to think fast, they want to play fast, and they're not too obsessed with size along the way. They've gone and gotten guys with some size, and they've gone and gotten some smaller guys with some sandpaper to kind of mix and match the lineup. And slowly over time, they've built a really varied and effective lineup up and down.
They understood what their core was, and those accessory pieces are just that. They're accessories that maybe don't necessarily fit the standard mold of an Avalanche player, but they aren't trying to put a bunch of pieces that don't fit together in their core.
Right. It's I always use this example because it's the great example, I think, of the modern era of a team just losing its way. But Edmonton getting to the second round and then going out and immediately like
making themselves significantly worse by getting bigger. Yeah.
Right. Like they wanted to get big tough guys.
Yep.
Because they said, I don't know why I'm apparently crying. They said we need to compete in the Pacific Division. We can't just be all skill. We've got to go get bigger and tougher. And they did that, and they got worse and took a bunch of steps back.
Yep. I don't have any argument there. The one thing I will say about vision is it's a lot easier to see the vision when they've already built most of it. If you look at the Avs vision rank 2 years ago, I'm sure it was significantly lower, despite them probably still having the same general idea for where the team was headed.
Well, it's some of this is luck too, because
sure,
you want
to,
hey, we want to build around speed and skill. Oh, well, we happen to have the 4th overall pick where Cale Makar gets to us.
Yeah. Like
it's a perfect fit for that for speed and skill.
Yeah. True.
You know, like if they had gotten the 4th pick in 2018, had Ottawa given that pick to them, which they could have.
Very different type of player.
Yeah, Brady Tkachuk is speed and skill. Like that's your grit and grind guy.
Yeah.
That's your, hey, we're gonna go and get the toughness and skill that we need, but we're still looking for speed and skill on the back end now.
Yep.
So it's a little different. Vision. Some of vision is luck as well, because you look at like Ottawa right now. Their vision is hoard all the draft picks and completely rebuild the entire organization from the ground up, and then see what sticks and go from there.
Yep.
But when they've had to make decisions, Jake Sanderson, that's a decision. They went with the skating and the size and the skating and the defense over a potentially more dynamic offensive player and a guy like Drysdale. Right. That's a decision, but you can see the vision at play there for an organization. For the Avs, speed and skill. It's what they wanted. Yep. And that's exactly what they built to at every turn.
And then you can see at the bottom there, the change in confidence is almost entirely positive. The slightest bit of less in the public opinion there, but I mean, that's a ton of high confidence in this team to improve from being 1 goal away from the conference finals.
Yeah.
You gotta like the sound of that. But
yeah. I mean, they were 2 goals away from the conference finals. Now they were 1 goal away. What's next?
Yep.
Now it's time to get there. But draft and develop. We got to go back to that.
Circling back to the topic at hand. Fan base rating them 14th at a 4.0. Public opinion rating them as high as 4.4, second best in the league. From a public opinion standpoint, you see Cale Makar, you see even dating back to Nathan McKinnon and Gabe Landeskog. They knock their high-end picks. Yeah, Rantanen as well. And even Tyson Jost is an NHL hockey player. Look, you can say what you want about him. He's an NHLer. They get their first-round picks right. The only one they've missed in recent history is Connor Bleakley. So,
yeah, that was 2014.
And even
And
that
then-
was a pick in the 20s. Like, not
right. You're talking in the entire decade. Right now, their misses were 2010 with Joey Hishin.
Yep.
2011 with Duncan Siemens. They didn't have one in 2012, so I guess, a miss
take
of a
that
different
however
type.
you want it. Yeah.
And then because that was the Philip Forsberg pick.
Yep.
And 2014 with Connor Bleakley. So they had a rough stretch there where all their misses happened in that little. But since then, and it obviously it's still too early. We don't know what Martin Kaut is.
Yep.
We don't know about Byram and Newhook. And we don't know about Justin Bear.
The thing is, it is too early, but all the signs on almost all of those guys are pointing to positive, right? Like, Kaut's going to be pushing for an NHL job. So is Byram. So is Newhook.
Newhook has vaulted himself from, if they did a redraft, he would go from the 16th pick to like
7th or something.
I would say pushing top 5.
Yeah.
So you're feeling very, very good about all those guys with Justin Barron as the only true wait and see.
Yeah.
The first round picks, and the one thing that annoys me about this conversation is that it gets taken for granted that the Avs got the first rounders right.
Yep.
That they got all their high picks right. Because there are franchises out there who have been drafting at the top and haven't gotten them correct.
Yeah, for sure.
You look at some of the franchises that got the picks right, they don't tend to go back. You look at the 2013 draft as a great example of that. Who drafted in that top 4? Colorado won. They got it right, but Florida. They screwed up for a bunch of times, and it took some time. Florida, they got it right, but they haven't been able to build around. And then you look at that after that, Tampa Bay gets it kind of wrong, and still manages to come out. Like, Tampa Bay could have had Victor Hedman and Seth Jones.
Yep.
They wouldn't have had to trade for Ryan McDonough. They could have had Victor Hedman and Seth Jones, and they survived that. Nashville got Seth Jones and then traded him away and survived that.
Yep.
Like, the drafting for the Avs is in the top 10. It shouldn't be just dismissed as, oh, well, they got their top 10 picks right. Like, I'm sorry, but those are the most important picks to get correct. Those are the ones that make or break you as a franchise.
Yeah, I mean, you brought up Nashville. They survived, but since Seth Jones, their best first-round pick, I mean, excluding the ones that it's too early to tell about, their best first-round pick is Kevin Fiala,
who's just had a career year in Minnesota.
Yep. No longer with them, and a career year is, he's a solid player, but you drafted this guy 11th overall, and he's a little over half a point per game as a forward. He's
Burakovskian.
Yeah, sure.
In terms of like that kind of impact. A meaningful top 6 player, but he can't be your best player.
And that's their best first round pick, is what I'm saying. Whereas comparatively, the Avs' best first round picks are just miles ahead of that.
They're bangers, man.
Yep.
And you want to, it's not even like looking at the Nashvilles. It's the, how are they doing against other top 10 teams?
Yeah.
How are they walking out of there with some of the best players in those draft classes because they have among the best picks. 2015 is an all-time great draft class. Mikko Rantanen on a 2015 redraft would not go significantly higher than 10, if only because there's not a lot of room for him to move up. But that draft class is amazing.
Yep.
It's going to be hard for Rantanen to take a huge leap. I'm not sure he would go top 5 in a redraft, but that's because of the class, not Mikko.
I mean,
whereas McKinnon on a redraft, he goes number 1 easily. Yep. On a 2011 redraft, Landeskog goes top 5 somewhere.
You could probably still make a case for him in the top 3 even.
Yeah, I mean, like that's like Kucherov, Scheifele, Dougie. Like there are some guys who have had really good careers in that class.
Sure.
But the point is that the point I'm making here is that the Avs top 10, the Avs hits that they've had in the first round shouldn't just get dismissed because they were top 10 picks. I'm sorry, Buffalo's been picking in the top 10 for a decade and they haven't done well.
Yep.
So you can't there are guys that miss in the top 10 every single year. And their worst miss in the top 10 at this point is Tyson Jost.
On their current team.
Who is a bottom tier at the moment, a bottom tier NHL player with 200 games played at age 22. So like if that's as bad as it's going to get for you, you're doing okay. Whereas, there are teams out there that are struggling. Michael Rasmussen for Detroit. What's that? He was drafted 8th overall.
Yeah. You even talk about like a Tyson Jost in a redraft of that draft class. He still goes in the first round. Probably not at 10, but
he probably still goes top 15 at this point.
Yeah.
Because it's proven itself to not be a very good class, not be a very deep class. There's not a lot of talent coming out of that class. So you say, oh, well, they missed on it because they did pass on a guy like Charlie McAvoy. Sure. Those guys would go ahead of him, but there's just not that many of them.
Yep.
So it's, the thing is, and the conversation always gets centered on, okay, well, the second rounders and beyond. They haven't gotten a second round pick and beyond to turn into an NHL player. It's true. Like, there's just no getting around it. It's a little disingenuous because JT Compher was a second round pick who did his entire development with the Avs. Like, he got picked by Buffalo and then traded a year later when he was still in college. He gets traded to Colorado, gets signed by the Avs, goes through the AHL system with the Avs, and becomes an NHL regular with the Avs. We just ignore that because he didn't get selected by the Avalanche in the second round, but that's a second round pick that they turned into an NHL player. They turned Ryan Graves into an NHL player too. That one, because of Graves' age, it's hard to give them too much of a development win.
Yeah.
But they got an NHL player out of a guy that another organization completely gave up on. They got an NHL player out of Alexander Kerfoot, who was a college free agent. Basically offset the loss of Will Butcher, and was a college free agent, got used in the Kadri deal, became a meaningful trade piece for them. Undrafted, Logan O'Connor is in the process of turning into some caliber of an NHL player for them. Totally undrafted, went to camp and signed with them. Same thing that happened with Ty Lewis, except Ty Lewis is not going to turn into an NHL player. Logan O'Connor is. Big whiff on my part, big hit on the Avs' part. Even if Logan O'Connor gets absolutely no better, still a big victory for them.
Yep.
Didn't cost him anything other than I think it was a 2-year ELC for O'Connor, and they're going to get there. He's
already provided significant value and is primed to provide significantly more.
Yeah, is primed to be at the very least a depth like healthy scratch rotation, forward rotation guy for them. If not a lineup regular in a year or two, when free agency is going to clean out some of the bottom six for Colorado. So
you're talking just posted his all points. Go check it out.
Toninato wasn't really like a big win. He was kind of like a borderline. He's like a borderline NHL guy. He was sort of iffy in Colorado. He was iffy in Florida. Now Winnipeg's giving him a look. If you want to put him there, that's fine. Like Kerfoot and Toninato were much better college free agent signings. Kerfoot is one of the best college free agents of the last 10 years.
Yep.
Outside of Kevin Haves, I think he might be second or third best.
Well, and I think the Kerfoot signing is a very special case in which he was hitting college free agency and the Avs said, we have all the room in the world to give you
Right.
all the playing time.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a specific case with him. But
right. And if you don't want to include them, that's fine. But some of the development stuff, like, there are real problems there. And I don't want it to make it sound like it's all burgundy tinted glasses and it's all the Avs are great. Because we've talked on the show a ton about the issues that they've had with development and transitioning players from their junior league or the NCAA or whatever into a meaningful AHL role and then into a meaningful NHL player. They've had problems with it. They just have. But at the same time, they've had wins across the board. Pablo Francouz isn't a draft and development win, but it's a scouting win, which is kind of the same, a lot of the same guys doing the same thing.
So, I mean, I guess my question is, what's the disconnect there? The Avs have proven to have effective scouting when it comes to acquiring these older free agents and these trade acquisition prospects even. But when it comes to the drafting scenario, it's at the point where they've failed to successfully convert any of their late round picks for long enough that you can't just chalk it up to bad luck anymore. Yes, sure. Most late round picks are not going to make it, but you should be getting one second, third, fourth round pick every couple years.
Yeah, none for an entire decade is bad.
Yeah.
And we thought Bigra was going to get there. The concussion kind of derailed him.
Yep.
They turned him into Ryan Graves, and it's like, okay, great. The one thing that you can take away from the Avs with these guys that I'm talking about, Graves and O'Connor, Comfer, they still get full credit for. You can't twist yourself into any kind of a pretzel and take away that credit for them. They did all the work there. But those guys were older and could prove that they'd already proven, hey, they can play.
Yep.
And there isn't really a lot of development that has to go into work with a guy like a Graves or even an O'Connor, where it's like they just sort of show up and, okay, hey, they prove themselves and they win jobs. Kerfoot, same thing. There isn't any development going on there. The Avs didn't play a major role in their development. They were older guys who showed up and could play. So if you want to ding them for that, that's fair. But I do think that it gets overlooked that they don't get the credit for that kind of stuff, where they've gotten successful NHL transitions out of other means that other organizations are struggling to get as a way of making up the ground that they're losing because they can't transition these picks. You say, what's the disconnect? The disconnect is just the development of guys who are not overwhelming talents or guys who are not already too good for a level. Bocage, when you and I were talking, when we did our prospect list and we said they have to get NHL players out of the cycle, it's because they have too much talent. They have too many good young prospects that if they get a zero out of their non-first round picks between just the third rounders alone, Justus Annunen and Jean-Luc Foudy and Sampo Ranta and Bocage
there, yeah.
If you get zero guys just out of those third rounders, you failed.
Yep.
You failed. It's just that they did too good of a job on draft day for once. Because not getting an NHL player out of Josh Anderson or Matt Steinberg, that's predictable. We could have seen that coming on draft day.
Yeah.
We did see it coming on draft day, which is why those picks were panned.
Yep.
We didn't like those picks for a reason. Those guys were predictable baddies. So I would say a good hit ratio for post first rounders. I would say you want, Rudolph, we've always kind of said if you get 2 NHL players out of a draft class, you've had a great class.
Correct.
If
you should reasonably be doing that every, I would say on the safe side, every 3 years.
I was going to say 3 or 4 years is where I would go, or you need to be producing one, and not like a low end replacement level
70 games out of a guy doesn't count, right? Yeah,
right. I mean, I'm talking
a legitimate NHLer, yeah,
a guy that's going to get 2 or 3 contracts,
an impact player.
Yeah, somebody that's in your top 4, your top 9, or is on a deep defense is a stable third pairing guy.
Yep.
Like a meaningful player for you. At the low end of it, like a Graves guy. Graves, or if they, Calvert or Nieto-esque.
Bottom sixer,
in terms of forwards.
A guy you're not afraid to play.
Yeah, a guy that you don't need to be afraid to play him. A guy that you're not worried about it. You're saying, hey, we understand his downsides, but he does all these other things, and it's fine. You roll the dice with that guy. You're comfortable playing that guy every night. So that's why I think the fan base got it right. I don't think that the Avs are bottom of the barrel in draft and development. I know that there are people out there who would say that they're bottom 5. I think that's crazy. That's batshit crazy in my opinion. Because it ignores all of the success that they've had.
Their first round alone carries them quite
well,
a bit.
And it's like, look, how much credit do you give them for talents like McKinnon and Makar, right? You don't want to be like, oh my God, look at they've developed these guys into world class. Also, like they're top 5 picks, bro. Like they should be getting pretty good freaking players out of this.
They got them right though, and this is draft and develop. It's both. If it's just develop, do they get knocked a little bit more? I think so, but you've already brought up the good points of the players they've traded for and developed.
The Nikita Zadorov was a guy that they developed too. Did he hit his ceiling? No, but that's a functional, meaningful NHL player. That's a long-time NHL player. Like he's going to be in the league for a long time. That's a development win for them. It's another first-round guy. When they get an NHL player out of Shane Bowers, well, we'll see.
And
you can't get an NHL player out of that guy, though. I swear.
Yeah, that dude is the most polished prospect ever.
Like, you understand the downside, but I mean, come on, man.
Yeah.
With his size and his speed and his smarts, at the absolute worst, you should
just drop him in on the 4th line, and it should be easy. Yeah,
he should have a Brian Boyle-esque career at very worst.
Yep. It's the other side of this conversation, which I think is interesting, and I'm sure some people did ding them for this, but I'm not even sure it's worth dinging them for. It might even be a positive. Is the Avs seem to understand they struggle to get mid-round picks to the NHL. So what do? They went out and got value for them by trading them for guys like Burakovsky and Taves.
Yeah, I mean, the second round has been their real bugaboo.
Yeah.
Because we talk about the third round and all the talent that they're loading up on. For whatever reason, they appear more comfortable drafting in the third round.
Their second round pick.
How differently do we feel about that if your boo doesn't get snaked by St. Louis 2 years ago?
So much better if it's Alexandrov over Steinberg.
Yeah, that, and honestly, that's add one more guy to that list there
to get NHLers out of. Yep.
I would say one area where they're not getting a ton of credit, the 5th round. Adam Werner. Looking good. They got like 70 games out of Anton Lindholm and then turned him into Dennis Gilbert. He was a 3rd rounder.
I mean, even going up the list, you still have Danny Z over in Russia. They got Sasha Butala last year in the 5th round.
This year they get Ryder Ralston. Like there's some talent there. It feels like rounds 2 and 4 they're lost.
Yep.
But rounds 1, 3, and 5, they're very comfortable, which is really weird because even your Avs draft classes are the disasters.
It's just something about odd numbers that they put it together with, I guess.
Yeah, Kovalenko is a 4th. He was a 6th.
6th, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, the 6th and the 7th is like...
That's crapshoot territory for everyone.
You're getting into, if you get one player in a decade, I'm thrilled.
Yep.
That Nick Lieberman is starting to get frisky at Notre Dame is exciting because it's like a 7th rounder might do something.
You're just buying lottery tickets at that point. When 6th and 7th round picks earn contracts, you're happy for him. Like
Travis Barron feels like a victory.
Yeah, exactly.
Because Travis Barron earned an ELC, and you were like,
cool.
Play him in the AHL. To be honest, Travis Barron, I think, is an interesting guy because he's the kind of guy that I would give an NHL look to do the Logan O'Connor job.
Yeah, sure.
Like, the skill level's obviously never going to be there. That's fine. But as a high energy, know your role, go out and hit people, stand in front of the net and try and tip a puck or whatever. I don't understand why those guys aren't higher on the totem pole for call-ups. It feels like that guy is 10 million miles away from the NHL, and he should be one Matt Calvert injury away.
And I think
I would take that over TJ Tynan.
Yeah, exactly. That's the problem I think a lot of the fan base has is they're tired of, and it's nothing against the guys. These guys are veteran AHLers, are great at what they do and deserve to be NHL tweeners most of the time.
And you may not be able to sign them without offering them these opportunities.
Right, exactly. But at a certain point, you have to look at moving your younger, developing or developed role players into those opportunities because we've seen it. TJ Tynan, you put him in a role-playing role in the NHL, and it's just not effective. He can't be the guy he is in the AHL where he's all over the ice and scoring a ton of points.
Yeah, and he's your classic quadruple A player. Yeah. He was a very, very, very good AHL player. Arguably too good for that league, but just not skilled enough for the NHL and does not have the skill set to be a role player in the NHL, which is why it's like, okay, instead of trying to shoehorn these quadruple A guys, the Agazinos of the world, into role player roles in the NHL, pull your role players from the AHL and go let them do the job that they're most comfortable with. You know, give Nick Henry that shot. Give Travis Barron that shot. You know, before he goes back to Russia, give Igor that shot. Like, let some of those guys have those opportunities. They were so comfortable giving Kamenev every chance imaginable when guys got hurt. And it's like, just let one of these other guys have a look when things aren't working.
Well, and I think this is, again, where the scouting staff deserves some credit. They have gone out and targeted guys like Kaut, guys like Bowers that are versatile enough that, you're hoping there's some upside there, that they're more than a fourth liner in the NHL, but even with their skill, they're perfectly capable of fitting into a role-playing role in the NHL as well.
Yeah.
So I think it's a tough conversation that there's a lot of positives and there's a lot of negatives that, again, I'll bring this back up. I think it probably falls somewhere between these two, with public opinion having them far too high and fan base maybe being a little bit too hard on them.
Well, and even the fan base being hard on them, they're still in the upper half of the league.
Yeah, true.
You know, they're at 14, where it's like, you got your first rounders right. You occasionally get another guy right. Okay, great. But their other top 100 picks are getting lit on fire on a regular basis. That's the problem. You know, it's funny because we could look at this 2 years from now. We could be looking at this completely differently. You know, a Bocage and Motala and Annanen, even an Adam Warner. These guys all become NHL regulars or whatever, and you're feeling like, okay, well, 2017 was the end of it.
And I guess that's kind of the point I wanted to make is just like we were talking about 4 years ago, Bocage is a top 3 prospect or whatever in the system.
Yeah.
So we have not yet seen the fruits of the labor, but I think it's pretty clear that the acquisition of prospects has gotten significantly better over the past 5 years.
Yeah, I think that that's where the vision comes into it.
Yeah.
Because they've identified certain traits that they want. And this was really the first year, this year's draft class, where I felt like they went all in super duper hard on that identity specifically. They always have gotten cute with the Josh Anderson pick or the Matt Steinberg pick. But this year they said, we're not getting cute with any of this. We only have 5 picks. We're going to take our classic college guy that's really small that maybe he works out. Tyler Weiss, Colby Ambrosio. Then they go with the great skaters all across the board.
Yep.
With Ralston and Foodie.
Even Amon is a decent skater for what he is, but
yeah,
it does feel like
it's not good. It's not good.
They're drafting to an identity. Yeah, Bocage's skating is seriously concerning, but
it's bad. Yeah, it's going to need work.
But look, you're drafting a 3rd rounder. They're going to have problems. It's just reality.
Yeah, that's the problem. You drafted an NHL shot, and you're just trying to if you can get average skating out of it, then you're going to have a chance to have a Jamie McGinn type player.
Yep. I think that's the perfect comparable. Just let him be that goal scorer on a 3rd line type of guy.
Yeah. Anyway, maybe that's all goes well for Bocage. You're looking at him as like a 6th forward in your top 6.
Could give you like 20-ish goals a year.
Yeah, definitely. Where he goes like 20 and 15.
Yep.
And that's like, he's the guy that you're setting up shop for on your
PP2. Yep.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. So we're over the hour mark. So I guess we're going to go ahead and wrap things up today, but all of that to essentially say, look, the Avs are believed to be the best team in the league by metrics based on fan bases and public opinion.
Hey, the front offices absolutely earned the kudos that they've been given over the last little while here. They've crushed it. They're earning of the praise.
Yeah, 100%
of the praise.
So, look, things are great now. We have at least probably 2 more months of off season to go, but at this point for the Avs roster, it's time to show up and do it.
Do we want to start taking our fantasy or our franchise draft thing seriously? Start loading up on GMs.
Sure. Send us your emails.
Yeah, I got one DM from somebody about a week ago.
I'm assuming I got the same DM.
Yes.
Yeah.
From Jesse.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think
not Montano.
Correct. And Luke just hit me up today to get in on it. So
we need 31 GMs.
Do we want to do 31 or 32 for Seattle?
Let's do 31. We've got 31 teams.
That's true.
We should do a franchise. We should do like a fantasy thing, and then we should also do an expansion draft.
Yeah, we'll definitely do an expansion draft at some point. But send us your emails, or at least send us an email showing you're interested in this at info@thednvr.com, or you can always DM me. If you're a subscriber, DM me on Discord. That is the most likely place you'll be able to get a hold of me.
Yeah, that is the best place to get a hold of us. P.S. We're both part of the lounge. We're pretty active on Discord, and we're very easy to track down.
Yep.
Twitter DMs, Discord DMs, things like that. Honestly, I have my email address in my Twitter bio. So aj@thednvr.com. Start filling up. We'll start filling up spots for the GMs.
Yep. We get 31 of you, we'll do it, and have to set things up for that. So it'll probably be a week or two at least before we actually get it all set up and get a time where everyone can do it. But it was a lot of fun last year, and hopefully should be even better this year. On that note, we do have to get out of here. Green Mountain Dental Group is another one of our sponsors. We've had several DNVR listeners switch over to Green Mountain Dental Group over the years and make them their permanent family dentist. They reach out and let us know how great their experience was and thank us for leading them to such a wonderful practice. There's honestly nothing more rewarding than hearing that from our listeners. So please, if you go, tell us about your experience, if you've made the switch. If you don't know, Green Mountain Dental Group is in Lakewood, just 15 minutes from downtown, and they're the best family-owned dentist in the metro area, as well as extreme Colorado sports fans just like us. And as a bonus, if you schedule a cleaning, x-ray, and exam with them, you'll get a free Sonic Care toothbrush. So head on over to Green Mountain Dental Group today. That is it for today's show. We'll be back for the rest of the week as well. Hopefully, right now we're just kind of like you guys, sitting around waiting for the NHL to announce something about next season so we can start our plans. But
yeah, to be honest, I am badly struggling to come up with content to write every day because rumor mongering and throwing nonsensical crap at you isn't really my style. So if you guys have anything that you're particularly wanting, I can't really do film breakdowns right now because of my current setup, but if there's anything that anybody's dying to read, I'm open to all ideas.
There you go. Send AJ what you want to read. If you don't have anything you want to read, be sure to check out my player reviews. Martin Kautz is coming out in the morning tomorrow, so be sure to jump on that and let me tell you why he should be in the starting lineup on opening night, even though he won't be. All right. We are out of here. Thank you, everyone, for watching, listening, however you consume the podcast. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day, and we'll talk to y'all tomorrow.